Okay. Can you talk to us about calorie density? What is calorie density and why is it so important on a plant-based diet?
So calorie density is a great concept. Once you understand calorie density, you it's so freeing. You can eat until you're satisfied and never have to worry about being overweight again. So calorie density is how many calories you fit into a certain amount of food. I usually use a pound. You can use per gram, but it's calories per pound. And it doesn't change, right? So you can have, calories can change, right? You can have 400 calories of grapes, or you can have 800 calories of grapes. But depending on how many grapes you have. But you know that the grapes, whether you have a cup or 2 cups of them, they're always, I think it's 200 calories per pound, 300, something like that, right? So, and that doesn't change, right? So, and calorie density, there's a certain amount of stretch in your stomach, and that's one of the things that shuts off hunger signals. And your body basically takes in a certain amount of calories, has a certain amount of stretch, and it says, okay, I think you've eaten enough, you don't need any more. But imagine, and I'm just using an example here, it takes a pound of food to shut off your hunger signals, right? If you ate fruits, which are 200 to 400 calories per pound, and you after eating about 400 calories, right? If there's 400 calories in a pound, your body would say, hey, I got a pound of food, I'm great. But now imagine if you ate a pound of, let's say animal products and sandwiches and stuff. You're probably tripling the calorie density, or 12, 1300, depending on what it is, right? You're at 1300 calories per pound. So now it takes, for that same pound to shut off your hunger signals, you've now consumed 1300 calories instead of the 400. And you can see how eating till you're full could either give you 400 calories or 1300. Or if you did it with nuts are 3000 calories per pound. Now you could eat until you're full and get 3000 calories in that same pound. So depending on the food and the calorie density of that food, you can overconsume or underconsume calories. If you just tried to eat kale all day, that's about 100 calories. Raw kale is about 100 calories per pound. So your body would shut off. You say, oh, I'm full after 100 calories. But you didn't get enough calories. So you're going to wind up being hungry very shortly after and have to be eating all the time. So once you understand, you'll realize that our bodies are designed to average about 500 calories per pound, which is perfect, right? You got your fruits and vegetables at your 100 to 200, 300, 400 calories per pound. You got your whole grains that, your starchy vegetables are about 400 calories per pound. You got your whole grains are at 500. Your beans are 500 to 600. You got some things like, avocados are 750. You got some nuts and seeds if you want to get up to 3,000 calories per pound. But that's it. And if you start refining and making whole corn, into a baked corn chip, you're now going from 500 calories per pound to 1,800 calories for a pound of that same food. So what I tell people is that you can eat until you're satisfied when you're eating lower in the calorie density, if you're eating whole plant foods. If you decide to either have a more processed, let's say you want to have some baked corn chips and guacamole, and those you got to start doing a little bit more portion control, right? Because if you ate as much chips as you wanted, until even if they're baked without oil and they're whole grain, you're still getting 1,800 calories per pound. So if weight is an issue, you're going to want to portion control those. Right. And the things you don't have to portion control are your fruits, vegetables, whole grains, starchy vegetables, legumes. Those you don't have to portion control. You can eat until you're satisfied and stop eating as soon as you feel full. So if you understand that, you can eat and stop counting calories, except when you're eating desserts and nuts and seeds and those you want to sort of limit. And other than that, it's so freeing because I don't ever have to count my calories. I just eat until I'm satisfied. And it's calorie density that allows you to do that. Did I explain that okay?
Absolutely. That's great.
Yeah, it's actually, there's a perfect explanation, because one of the things that we see in our clients that have diabetes is that they literally have to unteach themselves how to calorie count, because we're so pre-programmed to believe that you're only allowed to eat a portion that's this big. And if you eat anything more than that, then you're overeating. Right. So you have to count your calories and you got to, weigh your food and count your portion sizes. But when you follow a whole foods plant-based diet, like you're saying, your portion control goes out the window. You basically eat until you're full because you're not eating your foods that you're eating are not nearly as calorie dense as they would if they were eating for the plant.
And you have to warn people, right? Because what's going to happen is they're eating bacon and eggs for breakfast for years, so they're and they portion control, right? Because if bacon and eggs are, 1,500 calories per pound, and they know that they're going to get fat if they eat until they're satisfied. So they got to eat like a third of what would make them satisfied. So now they're used to eating a third of what would make them full. Now you switch them over to oatmeal and fruit, which is 400 calories per pound instead of, or 500 calories per pound. Let's say they put some nuts and seeds in there, a couple nuts and seeds on top. Now you went from 1,500 calories per pound to 500 calories per pound. So you've cut by 3 the calorie density of the meal. So now, if you still try to eat only a third of what would make you full, you're really going to be hurting on the oatmeal and fruit. So instead of eating a third, you almost got to eat 3 times the size of the oatmeal. So you know what I mean? So if you were going to eat this much, eggs and bacon, you got to eat like this much oatmeal and fruit to get the same amount of calories. And the nice thing is, this much eggs and bacon, you got to tell yourself to stop eating and ignore all the hunger signals going off saying you're starving to death. And now you have this much oatmeal, you feel fantastic. Your stomach's like, wow, I'm full. That's it. And you're like, great, I got the perfect amount of calories and I feel satisfied. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Right.
And Robbie, you also have this great quote about the number one reason why people fail on a plant-based diet.
Yeah, I certainly didn't come up with it, but I mean, it's the truth. The number one reason people fail on a plant-based diet is they don't eat enough calories.
Right.
They come in, they always eat lots of vegetables, eat lots of greens. They think they're having a healthy salad, and they put some oil on it, and it's just they get hungry, and then maybe they'll go and eat a cheeseburger or something, and they might feel better then because they got some energy that they needed, but it wasn't the burger.
Right. They think it's protein, right? They'll say, oh, I got all this protein from a burger. I'm like, no, you got 2,000 calories you were short before.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You could have eaten anything.